Is the heat on in the morning?
I don't know. Rabbi, do you ever change the
Okay.
Yeah, right? For the heat.
Let's see. Does that work?
And
Okay. So, Chevra, if you take a look, today's daf test. First of all, today's learning is supposed to first time for Sarabas Chaya Pesel, Dov Mordechai ben Bela, Sheva Elisheva Shena Bas Adina Adel Ava Shlomis Bas Ilana Esther Hadara Sora Bas
Pesi, you said.
Pesi Leah,
Yep.
Leora Bas Sara Zilu Nishmas Moshe ben Yehuda Yeshua HaKoyin Tzvi Avigdor ben Aaron Elazar Neschus Yeshua Bekara for Shuvah Meschana Leah Bas Rachel and Shalom and Malka Roiza.
Amen. Before Shleim.
Inshallah, before Shleim is Neschus and Bekara. Now, just to clarify, today's daf is daf test. I'm standing for a reason because we're about to go to the videotape. Daf test Amud Aleph is a very long, not difficult, but involved Gemara that's discussing really the end of the prior 5 daf Gemara of Aleha, Yibum, Ased say it's not going to be what it's basically saying is at the end of the day, after everything's said and done, Rebbe and the Chachamim are arguing where you learn the din of Yibum and Saras from. The word Aleha that the Chachamim used to teach us all these halachas, Rebbe never needed. So the Gemara is now trying to address what do I need Aleha for? It's not complicated in terms of difficulty, but it's just a back and forth of it. Well, he used this plus for this, and he used the plus for that. I don't want to do that Gemara right now. That Gemara we can do either after, or I'll record it after, because I want to spend time on the part of the Gemara that everyone's all nervous about, and I'd rather have a lot of time when people are fresh for that, rather than take you through.
We have to do it afterwards.
We could do it afterwards, no problem. But I'd rather start from the Gemara on the bottom, because to me, honestly, I think I'm making an executive decision here. Trust me that it makes more sense to start from the bottom of this new sugya, and we can come back afterwards and sit down and do it. Yeah.
Where does it start?
So we're starting on daf test. We're holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines from the bottom.
Happy birthday.
Whose birthday is it?
Rabbi?
It's
It's mine also.
Rabbi, it's my daughter's birthday today.
Titus Esther. But yeah.
All right.
My daughter's
Happy
birthday today.
Yeah, it's great.
March 16th or
Both of your
Hebrew?
birthdays?
Yeah.
It's my
But
daughter's
you're
birthday.
born on Titus Esther, Rabbi?
Well, Kev, you got to give us all bracha. You got to give us all
We should all
bracha.
be zochah to
Yes.
understand today's daf. It's Hashem. Clear as day.
All right, beautiful. Amen.
Yeah. My wife always, whenever she gives me a bracha, you should be zochah and have a beautiful wife.
I love it. We're studying it, we're skipping.
We're
all the way
not
to the
skipping.
bottom.
We'll come back to it after, depending on how much time.
9:85.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah. This is probably not great for the OCD guys, but we're going to. Okay, we're gonna pick the Gemara up from over here. So I'm standing only because I'm going to go back and forth. Okay, what we're basically going to do right now is we just finished, right? We just finished at this point where we're holding the Gemara. The Gemara has just finished discussing all of Aleha and what it's needed for in Yibum. The beginning of today's Amud is talking about carbon chatas. And when do we have a carbon chatas? The maskana of the Gemara is you only have a carbon chatas whenever the mazid is bekaris. If you do it on purpose, you get karis. So then if you did it b'shogig by accident, you have to bring a carbon chatas. The Gemara above is talking about where do we learn that from for all of the various different chatases that exist. Par helam davar shel tzibur, a par for an avodah zarah, a par k'meshef. We'll go through it after. I don't want to get bogged down in that. And then at the time we start the Gemara where we have to be sharp, we're already a little bit, I don't know if I can handle this. I want to be clear. So says the Gemara like this. We're starting a brand new concept. We're coming all the way back to the Mishnah. What did it say in the Mishnah? Let's just quickly review the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, in the beginning of Yevamos, it said that the 15 women listed in the Mishnah are ervas. They're listed in the Psukim and Achrei Mos. These are women that if you sleep with, the child from that relationship is a mamzer, the kedushin's not tofis, you're over and on an avera, and that avera comes with a chi of kares. Serious stuff. It listed 15 women, and what we explained in the Mishnah was that these 15 women, because the Torah says you have to do yibum with your brother's wife when he dies, however, if that woman happens to also be one of these 15 arayos, one of these 15 ervas, that is mafkia, that takes away the yibum chalitza concept. The zika goes away. There's absolutely no mitzvah. So much so that if, let's say, when Shimon, the brother, died, he had another wife who is not your relative, we call her a tzara, that tzara of the erva. Tzara's erva is also petura. We looked at it from Sukkim also over the last 5 daf. And not only that, we said if there's a third brother who does yibum with Shimon's, the tzara, who's not even anyone's relative, but she, because by din of the fact that she was the tzara, she became like an erva. So even when Levi now dies, that woman is also like an Erva. So even if he had a second wife falling to Reuven, it's still a problem of Tzaras Tzara. That's the Gemara over there, the Mishnah, these 15 women. And there's a whole slew of women. The first 6 basically were some formulation of daughter or granddaughter. Then we had 3 related to like mother-in-law, mother of the father-in-law, father-in-law, that got to 9. There were a couple of sibling-related ones, ending off with Eishes Achiv Shalei Hayol Ba'olam, which we'll get to today a little bit. And then the last one was Kalaso, daughter-in-law. We had a whole bunch in the Mishnah, and there's different configurations of exactly how they could be married to Shimon in a way that's mutter for him to marry. And now when Shimon dies, all of a sudden, boom, you have an Erva falling to you. So they'll normally visit in Yibam. Now we're not going to say the Yibam. So there's a list of 15. It says the Gemara like this. Amar le Levi le Rebbe. Remember, Rebbe is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Yehuda Nasi compiled the Mishnah. He put 15 in the Mishnah. Says Levi to Rebbe. My area the Tani Tesvav. Why'd you put 15? Lisni Tes Zayin. There should be a 16. Meaning, introduces Levi to Rebbe or Rebbe to Levi, however you want to say it. There's a potential option to put a 16th Erva in the Mishnah that would fit. Now, before he even tries to say which one it is, Rebbe already knows where he's going, and he says to him, Amarle, Kimedumali, it seems to me, She'ein le'mayach b'kadkadai, I don't know what you're talking about, your brain's not in your head. Meaning, your suggestion for 16 instead of 15 is predicated on an idea that is so far-fetched that it's like you don't have a brain in your head. What does that mean? My daitcha. What are you going to tell me the 16th Erva should be? Says the Gemara, Imo anusas aviv. I'll explain what Imo anusas aviv is in a second. It's really not that complicated, but I just want to explain the Gemara. Imo anusas aviv, that can't be. Why? Because Imo anusas aviv is a plukta de Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanani. Ube plukta loy kamairi. Pause. Says Rebbe, you want to know why the 15 in the Mishnah are listed? Those 15 are untarnished. No one would argue with those. You go through the entire Masechta, no one will say that any one of those women, if they fall to Yibam, aren't going to be an Erva that's going to pater, Tzaras, Tzaras, Tzaras. That's the Rebbe's answer. What was Levi's suggestion? Imo, meaning Reuven's mother, is falling to him. Now, we explained earlier, you cannot have your mother fall to you, and I don't have to draw this. This is simple. In order for Reuven's mother to fall to him, Shimon has to have married his mother. Who is Reuven's mother? Either Reuven's father's wife or Reuven's father's wife, right? Meaning to Shimon, it's either Reuven's wife or Reuven's other wife, who is his mother. So Shimon can't marry his mother or his father's wife. So how could Shimon ever marry someone who, when he dies, is falling to Reuven as a mother? Let me just clarify that with him.
He did a bastard. That doesn't make it.
What do you mean, this? It's not Tophus. Shimon can't marry his mother.
No, it's very simple.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look. We're going to do it slowly. Right? You have Reuven and you have Shimon.
Your father.
And let's say you have the father is Yaakov. Right? So now, Reuven and Shimon are brothers from Yaakov. That's very obvious. Now, in order for Reuven's mother, right, to fall to him in Yibam, Shimon has to marry Reuven, the mother of Reuven. How is this possible?
No.
If Reuven's mother is Yaakov's wife,
Or his own mother.
or his own mother, because they're brothers from the mother also, either one of those two women cannot marry Shimon. Shimon is usher to marry his father's wife. Nothing to talk about. And he's certainly usher to marry his mother. So how could it be that when Shimon dies, and that this woman would fall to Reuven and Yibam? Not possible, which is why our Mishnah doesn't mention Imo. That was how we explained it when we learned the Mishnah. Says Levi, what are you talking about? You can have it where Yaakov, obviously not Yaakov Avinu from what I'm about to say, has a child, Reuven, with his mistress. No marriage.
It's a nusa, rape.
Same thing. Anusa Mefuta just means a non-marriage wife. I'm just making it a little bit more palatable for our language.
Okay.
It could be his rape victim also, it's just harder to say. Anusas Aviv and Mefutas Aviv is the same thing. The woman that your father was with, whether he did it by force
The
or
canal
he
for
didn't,
now, is it the canal?
that's, fantastic, by the way. Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll get there in a second. Shimon. You're saying Shimon has to die and leave his wife over to Reuven. No big deal. Yaakov has a wife. We'll call her,
Leah, no?
no, because that's sister's whatever. We'll call, yeah, it could be Leah. But anyway, Sarah. Sarah's married to Yaakov. Sarah has a child, Shimon. This woman, we'll call her Sandy. Because let's be honest, she's a mistress. She's probably not an heirless woman. Yeah. Okay.
I like it.
So Yaakov's with Sandy, has a child, Reuven, out of wedlock. Who is Sandy? To Shimon?
Nothing.
Nobody. Nothing.
Yeah, dude.
What is he? He's the Anusas Aviv. Says Rebbe, Anusas Aviv is a machlekes. Whether Shimon is allowed to marry Sandy is a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. We saw this right in the middle of Aseh Chalesei Sugya, where what we were trying to prove that even Rabbi Yehuda holds of smuchim. Now, where do we know that Rabbi Yehuda holds of smuchim? In Dvarim, from this case of Anusas Aviv. The Chachamim said a man is allowed to marry his father's Anusas, his father's Mefuta. And Rabbi Yehuda says not. Rabbi Yehuda says we darshan smuchim, lo yikal knaf aviv, which you mentioned, which is at the end of one pasuk. The prior pasuk is talking about onus and mefate, basically. So Rabbi Yehuda says, you see, smuchim tells me that it's awesome. And the Chachamim say, but the problem is that the beginning of the pasuk separates the two. That's not called smuchim. That's a discussion over there. But the point is that according to Rabbi Yehuda, this can never happen. According to the Chachamim, there's no problem with this. So it's a machlokes if it's even a scenario where Shimon could ever be married to Sandy. Now I will complicate matters just briefly for 1 second. Even Rabbi Yehuda, who says you shouldn't do this, says that if Shimon went ahead and married Sandy, it's tofus. So the Rishonim speak out over here that what all the Gemara means when Rebbe says is we don't want to put it in the Mishnah, is we don't want to include someone in the Mishnah that is only there if she did something wrong. So technically it could be there. Rebbe's saying the ideal scenario shouldn't exist in the Mishnah because our Mishnah is only including those people who...
Chachila, you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got it.
So therefore, since it's Talina Machlekes, we don't want to put it. And that, by the way, is the theme of Amud Beis. The theme of people saying crazy things like today's daf is so crazy. It's not. It's not difficult. It's just wrap your head around the fact that our Mishnah is 15 women, and really the Havmin of the Gemara is all of the Mishnayos, which is a crazy Havmin. We'll fix it. No machloksim. We're not going to have a Mishnah that is going to take a side in the machlokas. That's what the Gemara says. So says the Gemara. Therefore, Anusas Aviv, which I just explained very clearly, nice and simple and easy, is a machlokas. So says the Gemara. Velo, are you telling me that there are no machloksim in the Mishnah in Yevamos? The Harei Isser Mitzvah, the Isser Kedusha, the Pligi Rebbe v'Rebbe Yaakov, Rebbe Akiva v'Rabbanan, Ukitani Ukitani. I'll explain the case in a second. We're pointing out that there's another machlokes that is in the Mishnayos. Says the Gemara Bepirkun Kamrinan. When I answered, Rebbe says that we don't have any machloksim in the Mishnah, it meant in Perek Rishon.
Or the first Mishnah.
Well, let's get there for a second because we're going to find Bisham Mibisol. Okay. So says the Gemara that there's a machlokes Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan. What is their machlokes? This is another very simple case. We know that there's a halacha. Really, I don't even need to show this to you. There's a halacha that we know chayve krisos. No, you're jumping ahead, Rabbi.
No, it's there here.
I know, but Rabbi, we haven't read Bisham Mibisol yet. I'm talking about Rabbi Akiva Rabbanan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan, they have a machlokes. What happens if the woman who's falling to Ruvain in Yibum is not an erva, but is a mamzeres, or is a nesina? These are various different women that the Torah says, lo saseh, there's a lav. You cannot marry that woman.
Shimon the Beiser.
Yeah, let's say. Yeah.
Isn't it obvious that a mamzeres can't marry a mom?
Yeah, but Shimon married her.
Let's see, Reuben and Shimon are brothers. Same case. Shimon is married to a mamzeres.
Got it.
Or we
Shimon.
can say it, you can make it a little bit easier.
Shimon.
If you really want to do it a little bit easier, you could say Shimon and Reuben are Kohanim, and Shimon's married to
Rishon.
Lost her to him to do, but
Tefes.
it's toughest.
Machlokes.
Now, happens to be you can't. It's in this case. So let's say Shimon's married to a grusha, and Shimon's married to I don't know, whatever, another lady. Sorry. Okay?
Divorce thing.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
No, it's all right.
Now,
If Shimon were to die,
You married, who's the other one? Sarah?
Sarah, like a
Sarah.
Sarah, sorry, we can call her whatever.
Okay.
Call her Sarah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Shimon dies. These two women fall to Reuven and Yibum, and therefore Reuven's a Kohen. He's not allowed to marry this grusha. She's usher to him, right? But Asad says it's no problem. Yibum should be docha the lav because it's only a regular lav. So again, according to the Rabbanan, the halacha is he's not allowed to be miyabim grusha midarabbanan. So midaraisa he could do yibum with any one of these ladies.
She had Sarah?
Yeah.
Could be the Rabbanan?
It's Sarah of the
Call her
group.
Rachel. Rachel is a Sarah,
Right.
and so is
Only
this woman.
only Midrabbanan.
Only with the
Got
Rabbanan.
it.
Min HaTorah,
Yeah. it's all
everyone
good.
can do Yibum.
Right.
Ruven, no problem.
Got it.
Because this is only Aser as a lav, not a lav sheish beikaris.
Got it.
Let's say instead of her being grusha, let's say instead of it being a lav, it was one of the shnios. We're not going to get too far into that. Let's say there was one of the relatives that is only Aser midrabbanan. The same halacha. The halacha is min haTorah. You could do yibum with either one. Midirabanan, they said don't do yibum with either. Rather do chalitza. That's the way that's the halacha. Now the idea of doing chalitza, everyone seems to agree with. However, if this woman is a grusha, or let's go back to mamzeres, let's say, yeah. So Shimon did something he shouldn't have done, and then he had Rachel Tzara. So now, let's say Shimon dies. We just got finished saying that the halacha is Reuven can do yibum in haTorah with either one of these ladies, but since mamzeres is also to Reuven as a lav, he shouldn't do yibum. He has to do chalitza. Yeah. Okay. It's called choletzes below misyabemes. Okay. This woman is choletzes below misyabemes. Now, and then since midirabanan she's aser, midirabanan we say to this woman also choletzes below misyabemes. So now that's step one.
Curious calling and curious calling.
Yeah. So now this is the question. According to Rabbi Akiva, the halacha is that this kiddushin is not tofus
At all.
right? He holds that you can't have kiddushin with chayvei lav. He says a lav, meaning a non-kares, is like a kares. We hold not like him. We hold like the Rabbana,
It is
that only a kares is not tofus. A regular kiddushin with a lav is tofus. But according to Rabbi Akiva, the halacha is that this woman over here is choletzes omi habemes. Perfect, no problem. Why? Because this woman over here didn't work. Right? So now, that means it's a machlekes.
Not a Sarah, there's nothing that happens
According to
to
Rabbi
Rachel?
Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, there's nothing.
Okay,
According to Rabbi Akiva, this is a nothing marriage.
got it.
Kedushin is not typhus of chayv elam. So there's a machlekes, Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan, about this woman, what to do with her. And yet, there's a Mishnah later on, this is pointing out. That's the first question. You're already jumping to the answer. You jumped ahead a little. It's one of the downsides.
You said it.
No. First, I answered the Gemara, meaning I'm just explaining the Havamina. The answer is no b'pirkei. Yeah. So that's another machlekes that's going to be later on. Says the Gemara, yeah, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi saying when I said that the Mishnah, when I said that there's no machleksim, I meant in our parak Rishon of Yevamos, the first parak. This machlekes Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan is later on. So then the Gemara says, okay, what about the following? Meaning to say on Daf Yud Gimel, which is in the first parak, there's a machlekes Beisham and Beisil, meaning the Mishnah that we learned that has 15 erevas, and we said that each one of them makes a tzara aser, and the tzara makes a tzara aser. That's only true according to Beisil. Beishamai actually holds that although the erevas are aser, the other women, the tzaros, mutter. He has drushes. Yeah, Beishamai has like an entirely different Masechta Yevamos. In his mind, this whole concept of tzara, it's a lot easier in a certain sense because it's very hard to explain what he holds, but very easy to keep the halacha. The ereva is aser, everyone else is mutter. That's how he understands it. So that means that Beisham and Beis Hillel is machlekes, and the first Mishnah says that tzaros are aser, which means clearly we're taking sides in a machlekes. So what do you mean Rebbe's telling me I don't want to put a nusas aviv because that's totally in a machlekes, and we don't want to have anyone in the Mishnah who's dependent on an argument. Beisham and Beis Hillel is an argument, and our entire Mishnah is predicated on Beis Hillel. We're picking sides. Says the Gemara, Beis Hillel and Beisham and machlekes is not like regular machleksim. So says the Gemara, it says like this. Beishamai b'mokim Beis Hillel einay Mishnah. This is a concept we find in general in Shas that although we quote both opinions, because everyone knows it's a fact that the halacha is like Beis Hillel, therefore it's a six place. I don't know, forget that.
Whatever.
Man. There's a short amount of places, but the point is, generally speaking, the halacha is like Beis Hillel. It's not even considered like a real machlekes in that sense. So therefore, no one would view picking sides in Beisham and Beis Hillel as picking sides, because anyone who doesn't pick sides like Beis Hillel isn't acting according in the way you're supposed to. Meaning to say, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is responding to Levi that you're not supposed to put anusas aviv, despite the fact that it could technically work. But the reason why you don't put it in is because it only technically works according to the Chachamim, not according to Rabbi Yehuda. So says the Gemara, fine. But I have another case. Eishes achiv shahayo ba'olam. Shlo hayo ba'olam. So let's just quickly review the case so we can understand it. And we're going to, obviously, the Gemara is going to suggest in a moment that is also dependent on a machlokas, and we're going to answer, no, it's not.
You learned it, what, 2 days ago, this one?
No, this was the first day, on the Mishnah.
First day.
Yes. Okay. So let's quickly review.
It's the one when she wasn't born yet.
Third brother was born late.
Right.
So you have Reuven. We'll go the other way now. We have Reuven. Kyle, can you see?
Yep.
Reuven. You have Shimon. And you have, we'll make Shimon the one who's dying. Okay, so you have Shimon married to Rachel.
You have him married to Sarah. Okay? Reuben and Shimon are brothers. Okay, now, if let's say Shimon dies. Okay? Now, Shimon dies. Reuben could do Yibum with either one of these ladies. Okay? Now, let's say at this, let's say right now, before Reuben jumps the gun and does the Yibum he's supposed to do with either one of these ladies, their brother Levi is born.
No.
Okay? Now, both of these ladies here, to Levi, don't have a right to do Yibum. It's not mutter, it's usher for them to do Yibum. Why? Because since when Shimon died, Levi didn't exist, these women are the wife of Shimon, his brother. And since Levi didn't exist, he had no right to do Yibum with him because he didn't exist. And when he was born, Shimon was gone. So who are these ladies? These were his Eishes Ach, Shelo Hayu Ba'olamo, that didn't exist in the world, which is really just a fancy way of saying an Eishes Ach that has no mitzvah. Just like had Shimon died with kids, no one would have a mitzvah Yibum. Why? Because these women are Eishes Ach, the wife of your brother, and since they're kids, there's no mitzvah of Yibum, so therefore it's Aser. So even when there's no kids and there's normally a Yibum, you got to be alive in order to get that mitzvah. If you're not alive, the Torah never said do the mitzvah. So now you're born later, the Torah doesn't say do this mitzvah now, it says do the mitzvah when your brother dies. If your brother's not dead, or better yet, you're not alive, you can't do the mitzvah, and by the time you're born, your brother's already passed. So you're never there for the moment when the Torah says do the mitzvah. So you don't have the mitzvah, and yet you have the relationship, which is an Isser. This is an Erva. This is an Eishes Ach. This is Eishes Ach of Shalahayu Ba'olama. The way I just set it up, in the order that I just did, everybody agrees that Levi can't be with any one of these women. Why? Because there is no scenario where he's allowed to be with his brother's wife. Nothing to talk about. So the Gemara is going to say the following. But although what I just did, and this is how we learned the Mishnah, but I'm going to change the order a little bit of what happened. A slight change. You have Reuben and Shimon are brothers. Same case. Rachel and Leah. Now, Shimon dies. Shimon dies. Before Levi is born, Reuben does Yibum with Rachel, which is fine. Completely allowed to do. Now, once he does Yibum with Rachel, we could actually get rid of Leah at this point. We don't really need her. So Reuben's married to Rachel. Now, who is Rachel? Rachel is Reuben's wife. And he's also, and in a moment this will make sense, he's also his brother's wife. Meaning he's dead, but this is the din of Yibum. The din of Yibum is you take over as the new husband, so she's your wife, but she was your brother's wife also. Now, it won't matter for Reuven because he has the heter of Yibum, so this is fine. Let's say now Levi's born.
Mm-hmm.
So who is this woman?
Eishes Ach.
Right? Who is Rachel to Levi? She is, on the one hand, his brother's wife of Reuven, who he has a heter of Yibum. This is mutter, right? Because if Reuven were to die now, this wife would be a regular case of Yibum, right? It's the same person. This relationship makes it mutter. But this relationship, right? What is this? This is just Shimon's wife.
Right.
Shimon is a brother he never was alive at the same time with. So since Shimon is a brother he was never alive at the same time with, Rachel, forget Reuven, from Shimon's relationship is still a problem. So says Reb Shimon and the Chachamim, they argue. Do we say that Levi is considered Aser to Rachel because in the end of the day, who is she? She's the Eishes Ach Shel Hayu Ba'olamo. Or do we say that no? Since when Levi was born, Rachel was already married to Reuven, right? There was never a moment in time that Rachel ever practically became Aser to him as the Eishes Ach Shel Hayu Ba'olamo, because by the time he was born, she was already married. So she wasn't like open for Yibum. Therefore, Reuven sort of cleanses the fact that the history of Rachel is that she used to be Shimon's wife. Now she's married to Reuven. When Reuven now dies, Levi can be Miyab and Rachel. So that if, let's say, Reuven is married to Rachel and to Leah, or whatever, some other lady, this would be the Sarah, do we say that this woman is Patura from the Yibum or not? Depends if she's an Erva. She's only an Erva if you hold. She still retains the status of being the Eishes Ach Shel Hayu Ba'olamo. then the tzara is mutter, ketura. If you say that no, like the Rosh Shimon, that Rachel like gets a clean slate in terms of her relationship with Levi as a byproduct of marrying Reuven before Levi was born, then
You
the
could do
halacha
even
would
with
be
either. You could do even with Leah or with Rachel.
exactly because they're just your brothers with two wives. No big deal. No big deal. That's the machlokes Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda.
Straightforward, no?
So says the Gemara. Well, yeah, once you work it through. Yeah. So says the Gemara like this. You're telling me that the Mishnah doesn't contain any machloksim. This is a huge machlokes. Now, of course, the answer is who says you have to set the Mishnah up in this case? Why not set it up where Levi was born before Reuven did the Yibum? And everyone agrees that in that case, that's for sure Eishes Hachshleil Ba'olamo. Okay, that's exactly what the Gemara is going to say. The Gemara says, v'harei Eishes Hachshleil Ba'olamo at the bottom of the Gemara, de pligi Reb Shimon Rabbanan, meaning in this case where Levi is born only after Reuven already did the Yibum, where the Rabbanan say that's going to be a problem. Reb Shimon says, what do you mean? It's just Rachel. Rachel's married to Reuven. Is Reuven dying? It's his brother's wife. No big deal. It's a mitzvah yibum. That's a machlekes. Answers the Gemara. V'ktani. Answers the Gemara. What do you mean? But no, l'besof yibem loy polik. Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon agrees that if Levi is born and only then is Reuven miyabem, he agrees over there that that's going to be a classic case of Eishes Achiv Shalei Hayu Ba'olamo. In which case, then, when it says in the Mishnah, one of the 15 of Eishes Achiv Shalei Hayu Ba'olamo, that is the case that he's talking about, right? Now, okay, now says the Gemara, one second. The way I just explained it is that this machlokes here is only in this case, but in the case where Reuven doesn't do the Yibum and Levi's born, and only then Reuven does the Yibum, everyone agrees it's Usser, says the Gemara. However, the Rabbi Shaya, Chaluk Haya Reb Shimon Af Berishon. He had the opinion that Reb Shimon machlokes with the Rabbanan goes across the board.
Wow.
Gemara says no. Isus of Rabbi Shaya was pushed away, meaning you'll take a look over there where it's discussed later in the Masechta. They said Rabbi Shaya's argument's not a sound argument, and really, no, it's true that Rabbi Shimon and the Chachamim are arguing only in this case, but in the case where Levi is born before Reuven does Yibum with Rachel, Hakol, everyone agrees it's going to be a problem of Eishes Hachshleil Ba'olamo, in which case then Rebbe's answer to Levi is good. Our entire Mishnah is filled with only non-machlokes cases. You want to add in Anusas Aviv? That's a machlekes between Reb Yehuda and the Chachamim. I'm not sticking anything I'm a diplomat. I'm not putting anything that has to pick sides. Okay. Up until now, smooth. Really not complicated. Just a question of making sure you understand the cases. Okay. The Gemara is now I'm going to say it outside, and then we'll go inside, and we'll go through the cases. The reason why people make a big deal about this Gemara is this big Rashi here. Okay, and it's predicated on a Mishnah on Daf Chav Vav, which number one we haven't learned, so it's obviously unfamiliar, and it's based on an idea called Arba Achin, 4 brothers, okay, who marry two of the brothers marry sisters. Don't get nervous. I know that sounds like we're gonna make it super clear. Okay, let's do it like this. Okay. So we're going to hold off on our Gemara for a second, and we're going to think about a Mishnah on Daf Chav Vav. And I'm going to tell you what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says the following halacha. You have Reuven.
This is gonna be fun.
It's really not that bad, I promise. Reuven and Shimon are brothers, and they have other 2 brothers. You have Levi
Yehuda.
and Levi. You have Levi here, and you have Yehuda. Big family, nice, beautiful Jewish family. They all get along. They share wives. They're fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So now you have Reuven and Shimon. Reuven and Shimon married sisters. Again, nothing wrong with that. Reuven and Shimon are allowed to marry sisters. So we'll say that Reuven married Rachel, and Shimon married Leah. Okay. So right now, everything is good. We'll call this the Goldstein family. Everything is good in the Goldstein family. Everyone gets along. They get together. They need a shidduch for Levi and Yehuda, but in the general rule over here is the family gets along. Purim time's a lot of fun. Okay. Now let's just work this out. Let's say no Erva relationships here. Rachel and Leah are sisters. Let's say both Reuven and Shimon die. Both of them die. They're in a car accident now. They're gone. No kids. Rachel is a Yevama, and Leah is a Yevama. Rachel is a Yevama to Yehuda, and Rachel is a Yevama to Levi. And Leah is a Yevama to Levi, and Leah is a Yevama
Correct.
to Yehuda.
Uh-huh.
So far, so good.
Both of them are Yevamos.
No problem. And they both have a din yibum. Remember, they're both. These are not saros. They're not two women married to one guy. These are two separate women married to two separate
No
guys.
chalitza, Yibam.
So says the Gemara like this on Daf Chavav. Min HaTorah, no big deal. Min HaTorah, Yehuda could do yibum with Rachel, or you could do with yibum with Leah. Levi could do yibum with Leah, and Levi could do yibum with Rachel. No problem. Why shouldn't you be able to do it? What's that?
Why can't Rachel
Can marry two sisters.
Yehuda can't do Rachel and Leah together because then you're marrying sisters. Right? In fact, once Yehuda does yibum with Rachel, technically speaking, what is Leah to him? Achos ish. It's Achos Isha, right?
Yeah,
It's his wife's sister. Can't marry her. In fact, that is the reason why the rabbi said, "Whoa, 1 second. We don't want to allow anyone to do any yibum here. Why? Because we don't want people to think, well, who are these women? Remember, what do we say? The halacha is that when the brother dies, his ishus, we discussed this in the Hakdama, his ishus isn't gone, because otherwise, what is allowing Yehuda to be with his wife?
Nothing.
There is what we call zika.
It's falling. It's falling. to
Right.
somebody
Falling
else.
to yibum means there's something called zika. And we said zika was like this quasi-marriage. It's not a full marriage, but it's not nothing, right? So the question is, how far do we take this? It's a complicated discussion. We'll come up again and again and again throughout the Masechta. But as it relates to what we're studying today, the question is, what relationship does Yehuda have with Rachel? A Zika relationship. What relationship does Yehuda have with Leah? A Zika relationship. So technically speaking, on this Rabbanan quasi level, who is Leah to Yehuda? She is his Zika's sister. Achos kukaso. She is right. There's a Zika relationship here, and there's a Zika relationship here. Okay, I want to take this off because I don't want to complicate matters. I don't want there to be too many lines, and we're going to lose our blessed. So Rachel, there's a Zika here, which is a quasi marriage. So he's like sort of married to Rachel. Midrabanan, we said, I don't want people to think, well, if I'm allowed to do yibum with Leah, the sister of the woman I'm quasi married to, maybe people will think I can even marry my real wife's sister. That's a problem.
Mhm.
So we said midrabanan, the halacha in this case, because of that, the halacha in this case is that if Reuven and Shimon die,
Do chalitza.
do chalitza,
Got it.
and they both need chalitza.
Yep.
Because they're both have a zika min Torah. They both felt yibum. But don't do yibum midrabanan. I want to make sure we have this clear. If we don't have this clear, we cannot go forward. So I'm okay if someone says I'm okay not understanding. But if you want to understand it and you don't understand it, this is the time to say it. I'm going to do it again. Reuven and Shimon are brothers. They have two other brothers, Yehuda and Levi, right? Reuven and Shimon, the Goldsteins, have two wives, Rachel and Leah, who are sisters. Now, Reuven and Shimon get into a car accident, leaving Leah and Rachel both individually, independently have a din yibum. They are both the childless wife of a dead brother. Levi has a chiyuv with Leah or with Rachel. Yehuda has a chiyuv with Leah or with Rachel. Leah and Rachel both need to get taken care of. You could do chalitza with both, you could do yibum with both, but something has to happen. You could do one yibum and the other chalitza, doesn't make a difference, but something has to get done to take care of it. So, min Torah, that's the halacha. Everything is shalom al Yisrael. Levi could take out Leah, Yehuda could take out Rachel, they could do it the other way, it doesn't make a difference. Midrabanan, because each one of these relationships is considered like a marriage, we then treated it like a marriage in many respects. One of which is you can't marry your wife's sister, so you can't marry your Zika's sister. Midrabanan. Therefore, sex for Levi with Rachel is asur midrabanan because she's the sister of his Zika, and sex with Leah is asur midrabanan because she's the sister of his Zika, and that's true for Yehuda as well. Raise your hand if you don't
Yeah, so
understand.
what's the law? You does chalitza to one and Levi does chalitza to one?
Yeah, there's
You
no.
go and birth the chalitza to both?
Technically, one could do chalitza to both. Yeah, technically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Levi can go take a business trip. Yehuda could take chalitza to both, and it's fine. Because again, no one's doing yibum. So, and if min Torah, one could do yibum to one and one could do yibum to the other. They cannot do one yibum to both. Okay.
And they both don't. It's only one. It's one. Yibam. That's it. We want chalitza.
No,
No. It's both because they both need.
No,
a
but
chalitza.
not both brothers have to do chalitza to both.
No.
One
brother
brother
can
could
do
do chalitza to two
You
of
said
them.
that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, yeah.
It could either be each brother does a chalitza. It doesn't
Right.
really
It doesn't matter.
The bigger concern isn't the brothers. The bigger concern is we need to make sure that each woman gets a
I
chalitza,
understand.
either from one brother, from two brothers,
Got
five
it.
brothers, whatever.
Because they both have a Zika.
Exactly,
Got it.
exactly. And they need it. If they don't have it, then they're
No,
wrong.
that's
Okay.
not that daunting.
So let's get
See
back
that?
to this case.
Not yet.
This is the ratio.
It was all
We didn't
mental,
get hard
not
yet.
you.
No, it's step by step. I promise you, if you do it step by step, it's not that complicated. Problem is, this thing is following me because I'm very good
Is
looking.
Aaron on or not?
I didn't see him.
I got it.
Okay, so you have, now this is the ratio of the Mishnah. Now it introduces the Mishnah Erva. What happens if,
Right.
Oh, boy.
okay, yeah? What happens if Rachel
Mm-hmm.
is an Erva to Levi and Leah is an Erva to Yehuda? Do it slowly. Let's make it simple. Let's just start with just one. Right? So let's.
How does she, can you say how she's an Arab?
It's going to it'll complicate matters if I do that. And in fact, this Rashi is explaining how everyone in the Mishnah can be an erva in this way. The
Got it.
case of Daf Chavav that we're about to explain says that, well, before I tell you what it says, our Gemara is going to come and say the Gemara on Daf Chavav, that Mishnah, and our Mishnah are like symbiotic. They rely on each other. And every one of the ervas in our Mishnah could be Rachel to Levi. This could be Levi's daughter, daughter's daughter, daughter's daughter's daughter, mother-in-law, son-in-law, brother-in-law, cat's dog, whatever it is. It's possible to have a scenario, and this is why the picture book looks
You're allowed to marry your
insane.
niece. You say you can marry your niece.
Vito, you can marry your niece. Now, let's work it out. Let's leave Leah's relationship with Yehuda out for just 1 second, because I don't want to try to do two at the same. Let's just deal with Yehuda and Rachel. Levi is an erva to Rachel. Let's say it's Levi's daughter,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
so Reuven married Levi's daughter.
His
No
niece,
big deal.
Right.
It's his niece.
Where's Levi out here? I don't see it.
Levi.
He's right there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So Levi the brother
Married his niece.
had another wife, whatever it is. They had a kid. Rachel's the kid. Rachel says, "I really like my uncle Reuven." They get married. We'll make it that case. We'll just keep it simple. Now, in this case, what would happen now? Remember, they're married to each other here.
Can you write down on the Reuben niece?
It's Rachel's the niece.
Right. Can you write on the Reuben it's a niece?
Reuben's dead.
I know, but he married his niece.
I got it.
Okay, good.
That help?
He married his niece.
So now, let's think from the perspective of Levi's perspective. Yeah? Let's say Reuven and Shimon were to die.
Yep, he died.
Now, Shimon, his wife Leah, was completely fine with Levi. Nothing wrong with Levi.
No.
In fact, in this case that I just explained, Leah's also fine with you. There's no relationship here. The only person
She's
who
a Sarah to
no Sarah.
no Sarah.
We get very careful. Sarahs are when there's two wives married to one man. These are one woman married to two separate men. Believe me, when I was doing the Gemara, I did that.
Right.
12 times.
Right.
Oh, she's not Sarahs,
Right.
sisters. Sisters married to two separate men. Each one of them have an independent zika, therefore an independent chiyuv yibum or a chalitza.
Got it.
So Levi, who is usher to be with Rachel, cannot do yibum with Rachel,
Correct.
but he could do yibum with Leah, no problem.
Mhm.
In fact, not only can he do he could do yibum
He has
100%.
Zika.
Nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Why? Why don't we say, like we just said 2 seconds ago, that isn't this the sister of his Zika? The answer is no. Since she's an Irva, there's no Zika. Since this Zika relationship is now gone, because she's an Erva, you can't have Zika with your daughter.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, Achos Kukaso just became Achos nothing. She's not related to Levi at any level. There's not even a quasi-marriage because she's an Erva. That's Levi's Erva, whichever one it is in the Mishnah. You want to use Bito, so it's his daughter.
So
Just like
he has a Zika with
Leah, and Leah alone, he could do Yibum with her. So the irony is, introducing the Erva made it now mutter to do Yibum with Leah, whereas before it was only Chalitza.
Right. Got it.
I want to do this again, and then we're going to jump in a second. So I just want to make sure we have this. Focusing on you here. I want to make sure you get this, okay? I promise you, this is not complicated.
I know, but it's like sometimes when I look at the picture in a certain format, because I don't see the father, I don't see the whole
Yeah,
picture.
okay. So we're going to
It's
do
harder for me because I don't see the whole
It's
picture.
okay, we'll do it slowly. So again, let's remember, Reuven and Shimon are brothers. They have two other brothers, Levi and Yehuda. Reuven and Shimon are married to sisters. Shimon to Leah, Reuven to Rachel. That is completely okay. 4 brothers, 2 of the brothers are married to sisters. You're allowed to marry your brother's sister. Your brother is allowed to marry your wife's sister. No big deal. Now, just so happens to be that Reuven married Levi's relative,
one of the 15 in the Mishnah. We'll make daughter an easy case, but because if Reuven has a daughter from a previous marriage, whatever it is, his daughter likes her uncle. Likes her uncle Reuven, so he marries her. That's Rachel. So Rachel is Levi's daughter. We can put it down here to make it obvious. That is Bas. This is Levi's daughter. They can never get married. If he tried to marry her, it does nothing. If he has sex with her, the child's a mamzer. Nothing to talk about. This same woman went ahead and said, I like my uncle Reuven, I'm going to marry him, and she did. So now, Levi's two brothers, Shimon and Reuven, are married to two sisters, one of which is Levi's daughter. Now, you might say, 1 second, if this is complicated, if Rachel is Levi's daughter, then what's Leah? If Leah is Rachel's sister. Isn't Leah also his daughter? Okay, so that's why I didn't want to go into the specific case, because it makes things a little complicated when you, in fact, what we just did.
Your sisters. What do you think about that?
What I just showed you is actually what the Gemara is going to say. The only scenario this works. Okay, I'm jumping. Let's
Is what? Separate wives?
No, it's only.
I got it.
So it says the Gemara like this. So Rachel is some type of erva to Levi. We're gonna leave it.
We're not going to say.
You good
We're
with me,
not going
Rabbi?
to say daughter now.
You just said it's a beat, you got a problem with
You got
that.
a problem with Levi.
She's your mother-in-law.
Okay, we could do mother-in-law. So what would the case?
You can't marry your mother. What does that mean?
No,
Levi
married.
Levi was married to another woman. Let's say Levi was married to
Spencer.
Chana?
Rachel.
Right.
Rachel's mother is Sandy.
Rachel's mother
Rachel's
is
Rachel, but anyway, yeah.
yeah. So Sandy's his mother-in-law.
And
Okay.
Reuben married Sandy.
Sandy's husband divorced her or got rid of her. Sandy went and married Reuben.
Okay.
So now this is no longer Rachel. This is Sandy.
No, so he has no issue. Reuben and Sandy have no issue at all.
Nothing.
He
Zero.
changed, he put Sandy in there?
So in this
Okay.
case over here,
So Reuben's married to
Sandy.
Sandy.
Sandy's the old lady,
and remember she is Levi's
MIL.
Yeah.
mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, right, Sandy's the mother.
Yeah.
Now Reuben and Shimon die.
Yeah.
Who is this woman? Levi's mother-in-law, major erva.
Correct.
No Zika. If there's no Zika here, then Leah is completely mutter to be with Levi. Completely, even with the Rabbanan. Because why would we say he can't be with Leah? Because with the Rabbanan, it looks like she's the sister of your wife. This is your mother-in-law. There's zero Zika here, the Levi.
So you change it from two sisters.
Doesn't matter. No, it's still two sisters. Sandy and Leah are still sisters. Yeah, that's not a big deal.
Sandy and Leah.
Sandy has a sister named Randy, and Randy married Shimon. No big deal. Because again, they're allowed to marry sisters.
But Sandy also,
Every case-
happens to be a
No,
Arab
no.
Levi.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now every single version of this case is sisters. That's never going away. The case is 4 brothers marry 2 sisters. That case is like the boilerplate.
And
We just got to fill in the erva.
And they never have they never tzara.
No,
They
dude.
never tzara. That's the whole chiddush.
We're not even discussing Torah.
Right, got it.
Okay, now. So I just explained why, from Levi's perspective, Leah's mutter. But let's say I told her that Yehuda was married to Monica. Let's do a friends thing, yeah?
Yep.
And Monica's mother, we'll say, is, I don't know, Randy. Yeah? Is that a woman's name, Randy?
Yeah, of course.
Monica's mother's name is Randy.
Yep.
Randy marries Shimon.
Randy's a woman.
Yep.
Yeah. Shimon's below. Oh, you're right, Randy, right. Okay.
Who's a mother-in-law
Of who?
of Yehuda.
Right. Okay.
So that's Yehuda's mother-in-law,
Yep.
and that's Levi's mother-in-law.
Yep. Got it.
And they're sisters.
Got it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Yehuda's allowed to marry, right? Shimon and Reuben are brothers of Yehuda and Levi, are allowed to marry their brother's mother-in-law. No big deal. That's not an erva. That's not even a
Right.
shnia. It's
Right.
nothing.
Right.
Now all of a sudden,
Yep.
Shimon and Reuben are alive.
Are alive.
Alive.
For now, we're starting.
Yep.
We're about to go on. Okay. Reuben and Shimon are alive. Everything's great. Reuben and Shimon got 2 wives. They're allowed to marry to them. Yehuda and Levi don't like their mother-in-laws. They got to
Right.
see them whenever they get together, but they're there. Family works. Now Reuben and Shimon die. Let's just do it slowly. Yeah. Who is this woman to Yehuda?
No,
Erva.
no. It's an erva.
Randy is his mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Randy's his mother, right? Yeah, erva,
So
right.
she's an erva. So there's no zika here.
Right.
So then therefore this woman, completely mutter to Yehud.
Right, said that right.
Same thing on the opposite side.
Correct.
Who is this woman to Levi? His mother-in-law. Therefore no zika. So who is this woman?
Nobody.
Mutter.
Mutter.
So ironically, we said in the first case where there was no ervas, the only thing you could do is chalitza with each one because each of the two women are available. And since they're available, each one is the sister of my zika. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now we just said, by introducing that they're both arayos, this is the seif of the Mishnah. Daf Chavav says the Mishnah, you could do o miyabemes, o choletzes, o miyabemes, no big deal. The only thing you can't,
No Zika, you're not a sister.
zero
of
zika. The only two relationships that cannot exist is Yehuda can't do yibum
Right.
with her, Levi can't do yibum with her, but there's no yibum, there's no zika, there's no nothing. That's an erva. That's our Mishnah. Says our Gemara. This case, forget mother-in-law. This is the example of mother-in-law, but it applies for
Any of them.
all of the other arayos.
Yep.
And again, to clarify, this huge Rashi is going to go through each one of the 15, like we did with
To
just
show
one
this,
of
to
mother-in-law.
show
And
this.
I am not going to sit
Right.
here and go through
Ah,
all 15 cases.
Hashem.
We're going to go through two of them that are needed for the Gemara, and they're really not complicated. I promise you. If you, meaning this is complicated if you walked in and be like, okay, you get it.
Right.
But when you take it through it step by step, it's really not that complicated to get the wrap your head around.
And there's no tzara, which to me.
Zero
it
no
makes it
tzaras
so
makes it a
much
lot
easier.
simpler. Yeah. Now says the Gemara. Remember, where are we in the middle of? We're in the middle of a conversation. Says Levi to Rebbe, put a 16th Erev in the Mishnah. Rebbe responds, I don't want to put anything that's dependent on a machlokas.
Right.
We had a couple of suggestions, and we said, no, those are also okay in the Mishnah. Now we're saying, but what about Eishes Hakav Shalom Ba'olamo? We said also Eishes Hakav Shalom Ba'olamo. If you're talking about that case where he dies and does Yibum first, then you're right, it's a machlokes. But as long as Levi's born
Now let it take me.
beforehand, then it's fine. Says the
Which
Gemara.
one does this correlate to the picture one? Is that
This case here,
in the
I'll show you. Yeah, okay. This specific case,
Don't ask me
you need the mother-in-law? No, it's fine.
When I
Whatever.
see it in here.
It's fine.
just
That's fine. Do you want me to show you specific
The one-
mother-in-law?
The one that you just doing.
Okay, and that would be days.
Rabbi, we need to fix the light. It's falling down.
Thing.
When the guy comes with the ladder.
Oh,
Oh, Rabbi, yeah.
Which I said with Moso.
Luxembourg, yeah.
And
What was that?
All right.
hand over. I know my shekels are, oh, God, help me.
What, you need to have, I think you'll find it. I'll find it.
I think I hit them.
Okay.
Oh, no.
You had them?
Here you go. Now, the problem is the names they're using are not the names we're using, but the format, you see it?
It's on 51?
I think so. What is the top of it?
Got it.
Okay. So remember, just want to really make sure we have it. In every one of the cases in the Mishnah on Daf Chavav, it says, and these are the words of the Mishnah, it's o choletzes, o misyabemes. Levi could do yibum or chalitza. Yehuda could do yibum or chalitza. And says the Gemara, ha'asura lezeh,
Yeah,
mutaris lezeh.
Yep.
Ha'asura lezeh, mutaros lezeh. That's the way the language of the Mishnah goes. I'm going to say it in English. The one who is usher to him is mutter to him, and the one who is usher to him is mutter to him. That's the language of the Mishnah over there. Says our Gemara, you just told me that you don't want to have any cases in our Mishnah, the 15 arayos, that are dependent on a machlokas. The ha'amar of Yehuda Amar Rav, v'chein tani Rabbi Chia. This is the cryptic statement. And he says, Bechulan, meaning in all 15 of the women in our Mishnah, ani korei bohen, I refer to them as being true with the following statement: Ha'asur lezeh mutaris lezeh, ha'asur lezeh mutaris lezeh. Meaning, this is his cryptic way of referencing the Mishnah later on and saying, in every one of the ladies in the Mishnah, they can fit this Mishnah. So far, there's a cryptic statement. Says Rav Chia or Rav, who, by the way, I don't want to complicate matters. If you remember, though Rav Chia and Rav are relatives. Was there whatever? That's not worth it. That makes the Yevamos thing even worse. Okay, so Rav and Rabbi Chia both said the following. They said the Mishnah later on Chafov that says this is an erva to Levi and this is an erva to Yehuda. I can make this bito, bas bino,
any of the 15
every
errors.
one of the 15 in the Mishnah, chamosa, kolosa, the whole thing.
And that's what the whole thing is explaining how each one could work out.
That's what that
Is
Rashi
it
is.
I got
Yes. So now says the Gemara.
Those are the pictures on next
it.
time.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So don't look at them; they're just getting
Right.
confused. So says the Gemara. The statement, so far we don't have a problem. The following is the problem. On this statement of Rav and Reb Chia, we have three opinions as to what
really is going on, and we're going to go through it one at a time. Says the Gemara, V'Rav Yehuda Mitargim. He explained this statement that was just said as follows. Mecha moso ve'elach. Looking in the Mishnah, skip the first six. The first six cannot fit in the Mishnah later on. And by the way, we gave a little bit of a foreshadowing of that when we said, how could it be if it's Bito? Because if Rachel is Bito, then Leah is the sister, right? Didn't we say? How could?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
So we gave a foreshadowing of that. So he says like this: Mecha mosa ve'elach is true. You could put every one of the ones from mother-in-law and on into the Mishnah on Chavav. Aval Shisa Bavi Deresha, the first six, Bita Bas Bita Bas Beno, Bas Ishto Bas Bita Bas Beno, those first six, low. My Taima, says Rav Yehuda, even the Bita Onsin Mishkachasla, since the only way you can have the daughter actually fit the Mishnah later on would be in a case where she was raped, and we'll explain it in a moment. Then Benesu and Lo Mishkachasla, but you can't find it where they're married. Benesu and Kemari, but Onsin like Kemari. Says Rav Yehuda, our entire Mishnah is not discussing any cases of Anusa. We don't want our Mishnah to be talking about Anusa. So says Rav Yehuda, the statement that the Mishnahs go together is only true from case 7 and on. First 6 cases not. Why? Because all those first 6 cases are not possible unless you create it as a
Anusa. We don't say Anusa.
So let's talk about Anusa for a second. Bito Ma'anusa. Okay, so we're going to change this a little bit because
Did you do that originally, the rape stuff?
that was something else. That was Anusas Anusa. That was something else.
Got it.
Okay, so we have the following case. You have Randy's gone. Monica died. Here we go. We're going to go back to Rachel and Leah, okay? Just to make it easier for me. So you have Yehuda over here. You have Reuven. Are you guys okay? You have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi that are brothers. You have Reuven and Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda are brothers. Reuven is married to Rachel. Shimon is married to Leah. And remember, they're always sisters and they're always brothers in this case. Now, we're trying to find a way that Rachel is an erva to Levi and Leah is an erva to Yehuda. Yeah?
Yep.
We're trying to make that Leah is Yehuda's daughter, but not, Rachel's not his daughter. And we need Rachel to be Levi's daughter and Leah to not be Levi's daughter. The only way that can happen is if Yehuda had Leah.
No. You said one is the daughter of one and one's the daughter of the other. It's straightforward.
The sisters.
No, but they're sisters. How do you get one to be your daughter, the other one not, and you're both sisters? They can't be sisters from the father.
And you said
It
blood
has to be
not step. We don't use no step. No. Real
So
sister.
here, let's do it this way.
Yep, I
Let's do it this way.
understand.
Ready? So if they're sisters, they can either be sisters from the father or sisters from the mother. Let's work it out.
Well, from both.
If they're sisters from the father, that means Yehuda fathered both of them. That can't be. We need Levi to be the father of Rachel and Yehuda to be the father of Leah. So we're not discussing sisters from the brother. It can only be sisters from the not from the father. Only
the
sisters from the mother.
Sisters from the
So
mother.
if it's sisters, so who's the mother? Let's give her a name.
Sandy. Doesn't
Okay,
matter.
Sandy's the mother. So Sandy,
Sandy was married to both Yehuda and Levi different times. No.
how could you ever marry two brothers?
Right. You can't.
If Sandy was married to Yehuda and had Leah,
Right.
so far so good. How did Rachel get born to
Eishazah.
Levi?
You can't
Levi
marry.
can't marry
Eishazah.
Sandy. It's
Eishazah.
Eishazah. In fact, not only that, Rachel will be a mamzeres.
Right.
Levi with Sandy is an Eishazah. You can't do it. So you can't have the case. Unless
What?
Yehuda doesn't marry Sandy.
Marry Sandy.
He has a mistress named Sandy.
Okay.
Mistress Sandy.
Okay.
Are we being recorded? Okay.
No.
Okay. Yehuda has a woman, Sandy, mistress. Yehuda has a child. Child's name is Leah.
Okay.
Levi, family custom, also has a mistress.
Yep.
We'll call her Randy.
Yep.
And they have a kid named Rachel.
Yep.
Now, Rachel is Levi's
They're
daughter.
not sisters anymore.
So I'm sorry, you're right.
It can't work.
They share the
Sandy,
same mistress.
mistress.
My
Are you allowed
bad.
to do that?
Wow.
Yeah, no problem.
Right.
So Sandy,
Yep.
family business.
Right.
Yehuda and Levi
Got it.
sleeps with both of them, or maybe Yehuda and Levi rape both of them.
Right.
Not
Whatever.
both of them. Rape her,
Yes.
and she produces two girls who are sisters, who don't share a father.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Now Rachel is Levi's daughter, and at the same time Leah is not Levi's
Yeah,
daughter.
correct.
Leah is Yehuda's daughter.
Yep.
Rachel is not his
But
daughter.
yet they're sisters anyway.
And they're sisters. Boom.
Yeah.
This is an erva, and this is an erva.
Right, no good.
Rachel to Levi, Leah to Yehuda, and bam, the Mishnah works.
That's the first 5.
So since
Right.
first 6, yeah.
First
So
6,
since
right.
this can only happen, we called it a mistress to make it easy to describe. But this is called Anusa Saviv.
Yeah.
Anusa.
Yeah.
Anusa. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda says, I don't want to include
Right.
the first 6 in the list of 15 because it would require us creating a case of only onus. By the way, this is a good big chunk of Rashi.
Got it.
Just pointing out what we just did. So the Gemara, that's the first statement. So far, by the way, we don't have a question.
But this is from mother, not from
Their
father.
mother. Their mother is Sandy. Sandy is their mother. She
Are they mamzeres? What are they called?
nope. No, it's no ishus. There's no marriage here. So Rachel and Leah are
No, I'm saying,
sisters.
it's mamzer.
Only when it's marriage.
Out of wedlock. Nothing.
In English, the word it means we say
What about in
bastard, but
Hebrew?
nothing.
Gemara.
Nothing.
It's a regular child.
Yeah, it's just a child of Anusa Saviv, Mefuta Saviv. It's
But if you don't give them a different classification, it seems like it's no big deal to do that. Then it would.
technically, yeah. I mean, it's also, but it's not the same as it's not. It's
You know
not.
what I'm saying? It doesn't
They
give
not
them-
an
got
Arab.
the halalam, right?
Yeah, there could
What
be-
is it?
could-
What does that mean? It's the Kahanim that came to this.
yeah, yeah, but really not. I mean, it's there's nothing else. Really.
There's nothing. They're not called moms or nothing.
No.
Kids.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Wow.
again, unless Sandy was an H decision, Sandy was married to
I
a man.
know, I
That's
got
another
it.
story.
You think
So
Sandy was
Sandy's
single,
a single
single.
woman, and she's just doing this. She likes Yehuda and Levi. She has a couple of kids with them. She has 2 kids. She has 2 daughters. Rachel and Leah grew up together. Sandy raised them. Their fathers are Yehuda and Levi.
Rachel Leah's can marry Kohanim,
Not sure.
but they can marry regular
No,
person.
Regular person, no problem. They're
They can't
they're
marry them.
100% in regular Yisrael. Like they're kosher.
They go
Regular,
Jews.
regular
Aren't they go
football,
Passover or
everything.
something?
I'm not halal. I'm not 100% sure. That's
Regular football, everything normal.
100%.
All right.
100%. Yeah.
Schal, everything is schal.
Everything's fine. Reuben can marry Rachel.
Yeah, yeah,
Shimon
yeah.
can marry Leah. No problem. Who is Leah to Reuben? His brother's daughter. No problem. That's the case in the Mishnah. It's a niece. Nieces are completely
His
fine.
brother's mistress daughter.
His brother's, no, we say
But it's also his brother's daughter,
His brother's daughter. Forget the mistress.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yehuda did have a kid with her. Her name is Leah. So Shimon married his brother's daughter.
It's also his daughter's sister, though, by the way.
Who?
Leah, the other one.
Yes.
His daughter's sister.
Nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to marry your daughter's sister.
Okay.
Again, as long
There's no, right, I understand. There's no
right,
blood.
as long as
no
it's
blood.
not through marriage.
Right, there's no blood. Right.
Okay. Do we need to do this again?
Let me know not through marriage.
Sandy and Yehuda are married.
Correct.
I don't mean Yehuda can marry. Yehuda can't marry Leah because it's his daughter, but Yehuda can marry Rachel.
I think he married his daughter's
Rachel
sister.
is a mistress- a
It's his
daughter.
daughter's sister.
Yeah, it's Sandy's other daughter. Who cares?
Yeah, it's his
It's not
daughter's
Yehuda's
sister.
daughter.
Even if they were married.
No, they weren't married.
Why?
So let's work it out. Let's do it slowly. Let's say Yehuda is married to Sandy.
Oh, then Levi wouldn't be able to marry.
Then this is
No.
Yehuda's wife.
It's
And
Esau.
that's not possible.
Esau.
This has to be Anusa or Mafuta. It has to be.
But Kevin, you understand that it's also his daughter's sister.
Yes,
Doesn't
that's
matter.
exactly the point.
Right, right.
Rachel is
Right.
sisters with Leah, is going
I
to
got
be
it.
mutter to Levi.
Got
Right? I'm sorry, Rachel's going to be mutter
To Levi.
to Yehuda.
Yehuda, right.
Rachel's his daughter.
Yehuda, yeah.
Okay. I know. I'll do it 3 times, 4 times. I don't care. I want to make sure.
Okay, do it again.
Reuben and Shimon are brothers. They have 2 other brothers, Levi and Yehuda. Okay. Levi and Yehuda go out and they go get this woman Sandy
Hey,
pregnant.
Wait.
The teacher would have figured it.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, like,
Okay, mistress.
Okay, Levi and Yehuda, they do what? They get who pregnant?
Sandy. Sandy.
They both
Yeah,
get
so
pregnant? I don't know.
What's the
Out
movie?
of wedlock.
Greece.
I know wedlock. Yeah.
What do you mean? Wait.
But here. Ready? I'll tell you a
Sandy's a
story.
player.
I'll tell you a story. I know this family, 4 brothers. There's a lady who's friends with all the brothers. Apparently 2 of them knocked her up. First one,
Seriously.
6 months later,
Had a
he
baby.
met her. She had a baby. 6 months after that, the other brother got her pregnant. Not married. Hooking up
That one's there.
after the party,
Hey.
drinking a little too much. They
Right.
met. Now, all of a sudden, you got 2 brothers. Each brother has a kid with this woman.
Right.
From the woman's perspective, those 2 girls are sisters. From the brother's perspective, they're nothing. From the brother's perspective, that's my brother's daughter. This is my daughter. That's exactly what happened. So Leah is the product of Yehuda's little side affair, and Rachel is the byproduct of Levi's little side affair. In that family, the other 2 brothers, because it makes normal sense, went ahead and decided to marry those 2 girls.
And that's this case.
Who married the girls?
Reuven married Rachel, Levi's bastard daughter, and Shimon married Leah, Yehuda's bastard daughter. And that's possible. Why? Because Yehuda and Levi, although it's a little bit weird, there's nothing problematic, at least halachically, in her Leah and Rachel's status. Because since this isn't a marriage, Yehuda with Sandy was not being with Levi's wife. And Levi with Sandy was not being with Yehuda's wife, because it was only a mistress type relationship. Therefore, when Reuven and Shimon married Rachel and Leah, although it's a little flavorful, it's completely
Do
kosher.
it from here.
I can't do it from there. I didn't.
So, it's not a mamzer.
Not at all. Not at all. Not even
A
close to
mamzer
that.
is only if you marry somebody who's a married woman. Here's
Oh.
out of marriage. When you have sex with a woman without marriage, the kid's not a mamzer.
If you got a guy in the force, meets a girl in the street, and they get shacked
That's
up and
not a
has a kid,
mamzer.
that kid's not a mamzer. Unless she's married.
We call him
Married,
in
the
English
kid's
a
a mamzer.
bastard, but it's not.
Or unless that's his sister or his mother-in-law or his daughter-in-law, and he goes has a baby with her, then the kid's a mamzer.
Mam's only when real bad.
It's only if she's an Irva.
Irva.
Mam's only when you marry a sister.
Okay, so let's come back. So I just explained, guys.
Yeah.
Guys, this is not, yeah, okay. So like this. So now you have this case. Now what happens if Reuven and Shimon get in a car accident? Rachel is usher to Levi because it's his daughter. Leah is usher to Yehuda because it's his daughter. But the other girls to the other guy, it's fine. Who is Rachel to Yehuda? I mean, what would be a problem? At worst, it's Yehuda's brother's
Mistress wife.
mistress's
daughter.
kid. Who cares? So Yehuda is allowed to be with Rachel, not Leah. Not only that, since he can't be with Leah, that means this relationship is nothing. The Zika's gone. So the whole concern about him not doing even with Rachel, because it looks like he's doing even with the sister of his wife,
Doesn't apply.
goes away. Mutter. That's the chiddush of that Mishnah. And says Reb Yehuda, the first 6 can only happen through a mistress type of
We
relationship,
don't write it down.
and we don't want to have those. That's Reb Yehuda's opinion. Says Abaye, no problem. The Abaye mitargim af bito me'anusa, so he has no problem. He says you can even explain the above statement going on all 15. And the other 6, why? Because they'll say, Kivin de ishkachim ishkach. So you find it, you find it. Who cares if it's talking about, meaning they argue whether you can have an onus in our Mishnah. Big deal, no problem. Iboy, mino, and since have iboy, mino, and it doesn't make a difference. However, Abaye introduces a second case. Aval eishes achiv shelo yehoyu be'olamo, lo. He says that for sure. That for sure can't be. My timer. He says because it only works according to only one opinion. Kivin de Reb Shimon hu de mishkachas la rabbanon la mishkachas la beplukta loy kemayri. This is going to be the last diagram. And I promise you, it will make the Gemara.
Why not Rasafra? Why is that a diagram?
What's that?
Why is Rasafra not a diagram?
Safra and Abaye are talking about the same case.
Oh,
Pharmacy.
So we have, and I wrote my notes down and I want to make sure that I'm doing this accurately.
so what are you doing? Are you explaining to us a case of
Will it fit that chavav case of Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and when you have 4 brothers and 2 sisters? We want to make sure that sister A is an erva here, and sister B is a
They're
sister
still
there.
married,
And yet still the other brothers will do even with the other one and even with the other one.
and you could marry.
Yes, yeah, even though there's an erva. And the erva has to be Eish Zachar Shel Havei Lam. So let's set the case up slowly. Yeah, I have it written down here just to make sure I'm not making a mistake. Okay, so you have 4 brothers. You have Reuven,
To me, without Zara, it's so much easier. Zara makes to me messes me up.
Shimon.
It was easier for me.
I was? Okay.
Yeah.
Levi,
This
I
is
like it.
straightforward. The other stuff is just
and then you have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Okay, now let's say you have the following happen. Okay, they marry sisters. So far, everything's good, right?
Disregard.
Yeah. Okay.
2 brothers married 2 sisters.
It's also
Yeah,
the parameters of this case is the same every single time.
Beautiful.
Okay, ready? It's about to come. Pay attention. So far everything's good.
Yep.
Yeah? Let's say Reuven dies.
Right.
Not Shimon. Just Reuven.
Mhm.
Okay? Reuven dies. And now, after Reuven dies, who is Rachel? Rachel can do Yibum with who?
We said
One.
we do only one.
What?
Leah is still married.
Rachel and Leah sisters,
So Yehuda can do Yibum with Rachel.
and so can Levi, no?
So can Levi.
Yep.
And Shimon can't. Why? Because it's his wife's sister.
Right,
Okay, so Shimon's out. But Yehuda and Levi can do Yibum with Rachel.
yep.
Now, I'm going to introduce Yisachar. He's born. Who is he? Eishes Ach
Shelo Yivalo.
Shalohayu Be'olamu of Reuven.
Yep.
Reuven died before Yisachar was born. Rachel has not yet done Yibum with anybody. If you remember this case before, it was a case.
No, they said Yibum.
Everyone agrees over here that this is going to be an Eishes Ach Shalohayu Be'olamu.
Right,
Because Rachel is still waiting for someone to do Yibum. Yisachar is born after Reuven dies. So Yisachar, by being born, does not now get to do Yibum with Rachel.
Baby.
Okay, that's step one. Okay, Yisachar is born. Rachel is an Eishes Ach. There's an erva relationship here of Eishes Ach Shalohayu Be'olamu, right? Okay, now
Why is it, it's Erva, why is Erva?
because
Yeah.
every Eishes Ach with no mitzvah is an erva. Every time brothers,
There's no mitzvah.
Reuven is his brother, there's no mitzvah, so yeah.
No mitzvah.
always going to
You
be
have
like
to be alive to have the mitzvah Yibum?
Yeah.
Yeah, of
I
course.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's still a Zika with the other two.
Correct. Rachel has a zika with Levi,
Yeah, 'cause
and
Shimon's
Rachel
still-
has a zika with
yeah,
Yehuda.
regardless of-
Shimon not because it's his
Leah's
sister.
still alive.
Leah's-
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So Shimon can't be with Rachel because it's his wife's sister.
But Yisachar,
Yehuda,
right.
and Yisachar not also, but Yehuda yes, and Levi yes.
Right,
You
but
good?
Shimon's
The
still
fact that
alive.
he's born is insignificant.
It's insignificant for all of them, but it's significant that it creates an erva between the two of them. To Yisachar, who is Rachel, is Eishes Ach Shalohayu Be'olamu, and she will always be that.
But to the other two, it's, to Levi
Correct.
and who?
Yehuda.
Yehuda.
You mean to write that better?
Okay. I'll write it in English. Okay. Yehuda.
Okay, now that is the first three steps. Step one is they all marry. Reuven dies. Yisachar's born. So now Rachel and Yisachar have an erva relationship. I'll put it in parentheses here. Rachel is an Eishes Ach, and we'll just say not in the world. Yeah.
Yep.
Is that good? Rachel is a problem for Yisachar. Next step. Yeah, before Shimon dies.
Oh, poor Shimon.
Now Yehuda does Yibum with Rachel.
Also tough.
Yep, and he's allowed to, because that's
He has an obligation to.
either him or Levi. Someone's got to jump the gun.
Right.
So now, who's Yehuda's wife?
Rachel.
Rachel.
Yeah.
Now, Shimon dies. His wife falls to Yibum. Who can she do Yibum?
Levi and
Reuven's
Yisachar.
dead. Yehuda's married to Rachel, which is her sister.
It's out.
So that's out. Yisachar's okay, because Yisachar was alive when
So-
Shimon died,
So is Levi.
or Levi. So it's either Yisachar or Levi. Before they jump the gun and do Yibum, guess who's born?
Another guy's born.
Zvulun.
Zvulun.
Right.
And really, it's just a repeat of what we saw
Yeah,
on the side, right? So now what happens is, let's do it slowly. So when Zvulun is born now, who is Leah to Zvulun?
Yisachar.
Exact same thing. Leah is an Eishes Ach Shalohayu Be'olamu. Okay? That's Leah. That's Rachel. And now the Yibum is done, right? Between Levi and Leah. Right?
But what's the significance about this guy that,
I'll show you.
was just born? I don't understand the significance of him at all.
Okay, so this was
I know he's an
this
Arab,
was 6
but
months
who
ago.
cares?
This happened 6 months ago. So let's do a reset. So Reuben and Shimon are gone. They're dead. We got 4 new brothers. Who are our 4 brothers? We have
Yisachar, Yehuda.
Yisachar,
It's not married, right?
Yehuda. Yisachar has no wife.
Yehuda's
Yehuda.
married to Rachel.
Who's this one over here? This will be Levi, and that'll be Zvulun.
Yeah.
Who's married to who?
Yehuda's married to Rachel, we said.
Right, so Yehuda's married to,
Rachel.
this is starting to look familiar?
Yeah.
And Levi's married to who?
We said
Leah.
Leah.
Does this not look familiar? This is 4 brothers. Look at the names are different.
2 sisters.
2 brothers in the middle are married to 2 sisters. Who is Rachel?
Oh, Yisachar.
Rachel is Eishes Ach Shel Yisachar. This is an erva.
Oh, right.
Who is Leah? Leah is an
Yisachar.
erva
to Zvulun,
But not to Yisachar.
but not to Yisachar. So that's an erva, and that's an erva.
Can you say why again? You just do the
Yeah,
errors?
no problem. Remember in this case before, when this
Yeah.
whole situation went down,
Yeah,
remember, Zvulun was born
After.
before Levi did Yibum to Leah.
right.
That means that
Leah
Leah,
was-
for a moment,
Was
was
H is
Shimon's,
optional Olam.
Exactly.
Okay.
and that stays forever.
Oh, that's the error. Got it.
So
Got it.
Zvulun
Two
is now
errors.
erva with Leah.
Got it.
Yisachar is now.
Same error.
So
Right.
what happens now if Levi and Yehuda get into a car accident?
Right.
Rachel and Leah are now falling to their two brothers, Yisachar and Zvulun. Well, Zvulun can't do Yibum with Leah. He could do Yibum with Rachel,
Can he?
because who was Rachel to him?
Nobody, right?
He always had a heter Yibum. Yisachar, Rachel was.
Right. She was. It was
He's
even
never
that
an
his brother
Eishes
did the. His brother did the.
Yisachar can't be with Rachel. Zvulun can be
Right.
with Rachel.
Right.
Yisachar can't be with
Got it.
Rachel, but he could be with Leah. So now we just
So
found.
Zvulun was born before Reuben died.
Correct.
No.
Zvulun was born.
Zvulun was born after.
After Shimon
after
died.
everyone died.
After Shimon died. You're correct. Yes, he
Zvulun
did,
was
Rabbi.
born after. Forget Levi and Yehuda. After Reuben and Shimon were
You're
both
right.
dead.
So you're right. Right.
Shimon died. Then Zvulun was born.
Yeah.
Then Levi did Yibum with Leah. Therefore, Levi is now married to Leah.
I could do this.
Yehuda is now married to Rachel. Who is Leah? Leah is
By the way,
Zvulun's Eishes
everything
Achshel
else
from
was-
Shimon.
Mental game.
And Rachel is Eishes Achshel of Yisachar because of Reuven.
What is it?
Now,
All day today. I'm not showing up.
this is only
No
true.
mental. Now you got it.
Now, this part now, this next line is
Reading
the
your mind.
This is the punchline for the whole daf, I promise you, right now. Now you see why I didn't want to do the first half of the daf and then do this. Yeah? Okay. So it says the Gemara. Remember, we saw before, earlier, a machlokes between Reb Shimon and the Rabbanon in Eishes Achar Shlecha Ba'olamo. Everyone agreed that if this case happens, right? In this case, yes, you can find the scenario. Everyone would agree to this, right? But is that really true? Think of it this way. Okay, let's work this out one step at a time. Okay, so right now you have a scenario where Yisachar is mutter with Leah.
Yep.
Zvulun is mutter with Rachel because the ervas are in the other direction. But what if I told you that Leah, in this case over here, Rachel. Let's do it the other way.
Yep.
Let me just make sure.
Why
which
could
one.
Zvulun marry Rachel? Why could Zvulun marry Rachel?
Ages optional Olam.
No, why can't he?
Oh, okay. So tell me why he shouldn't be able to.
He
What
shouldn't
he said.
because when he was
Yeah.
born, Reuven already died.
And they didn't do Yibam yet.
So right now, Rachel is an Eishes Achar Shlecha Ba'olamo to Yisachar. Rachel and Zvulun. Who is Rachel to Zvulun?
It's his brother's wife.
Ages optional Olam. We said.
No, it wasn't.
Rachel to Zvulun.
Rachel to Zulun.
Rachel to Zvulun. Rachel was over
Rachel's
here.
up here.
Yeah. Rachel married Reuven. Reuven died. Married Yehuda.
Right.
After Yehuda married her, right? Sorry, Yisachar was born first. Then Yehuda married her. Zvulun did not exist during this entire time.
Correct.
So whether Rachel is considered a Shesach Shlecha Ba'olamo of Zvulun is Taliyana Machlokes. If you hold like Reb Shimon, Reb Shimon says once they're
He
married,
wasn't born at all.
It removes
You know
all
what I'm saying?
previous
He was
Eishes
born-
Achshel Ba'olamo.
He was born like after four things happened. Or
Yeah.
Think about it like that.
when he
After
was
four
born,
things happened.
here, let's ask it this. Let's say it this way: Reb Shimon and the Chachamim argue about whether a Shesach Shlecha Ba'olamo was only when
Right.
the Yevamos was single,
Got it.
or is it even if she got remarried? Who is
It's
Rachel?
retroactive. He's saying
Exactly.
it's retroactive or not.
Right. The Chachamim hold that if once she was ever once married to a brother that you were not alive with, then she's always usher to you. So it happens to be when Zvulun was born, Yehuda had already done Yibam with Rachel. So they were married. Yehuda had a wife, Rachel. They're living in, back Lawrence. Everything's great. Zvulun comes to visit his brother's house. Who is his brother's wife? Just his married brother's wife. If he dies, it's normal Yibam, right?
Right.
No. According to the Chachamim, this woman here, who is the wife of your dead brother who you never met, is always usher to you. So the Mishnah later on Daf Chavav says, Zvulun can marry Rachel, Yisachar can marry Leah.
That's true.
That's only true according to Reb Shimon, who says that once Rachel and Yehuda got married,
Then
that removed all of the history of the Eishes Achshel Ba'olamo that Zvulun would have had to have with Rachel.
So therefore, Zvulun and Rachel are good, Yisachar and Leah are good, and since they're good, he could do Yibum with her, he could do Yibum with her, which is exactly what the Mishnah says on Daf Chavav. And according to the Gemara, we're saying that even though Rachel is Eishes Achar Shalai Ba'elamu here, and Leah is Eishes Achar Shalai Ba'elamu here, no problem.
Only according to one opinion.
Only according to Reb Shimon. So what's the question of the Gemara?
We don't include it.
There we go. Says the Gemara, you just told me the Mishnah doesn't include anyone who's only in a machlekes, and Rav Chia and Rav just told me that our Mishnah and the later Mishnah are symbiotic. They go together. You cannot have a single case in our Mishnah that's totally in a machlekes. Is clearly totally in a machlekes if we assume that our Mishnah's list of 15 is in tandem with that Mishnah later on, that it must be everyone in the first Mishnah fits that second Mishnah. And the answer of the Gemara is going to be, Rebbe doesn't hold that. Rebbe doesn't hold that later Mishnah has anything to do with our Mishnah. And therefore, meaning to say, our Mishnah itself
this case
is not totally in a machlekes. It's only if you combine the two Mishnayos, like this whole cross-purpose business, you need to say that this is only true according to everyone. It won't be because it's only according to Reb Shimon, but not according to Chachamim. Our Mishnah doesn't talk about this case. This is the Mishnah Daf Chavav. It was Rav and Reb Chia who said that our Mishnah of the 15 ladies and the Mishnah later on are copacetic with each other. They always work with each other. I can list every one of these 15 in that Mishnah and it'll be true. And Zakt Rav and Reb Chia, that means our Mishnah's list is not, no one argues about it. This statement is also true.
Right.
So the Gemara says, let's read it inside.
Oh, you agree with that.
So says the Gemara. Remember, Abaye argued and said, I disagree with you on the Bito situation because you could talk about Bito man Usasa.
Same page.
Same thing, nothing's changed. Lo, that won't fit. Why? My timer. Even the Reb Shimon who the Mishkachas law, the Rabbanon loy Mishkachas law, beplukta loy Kamari. So says Abaye, we said it doesn't fit. Now Rav Safra argues. Rav Safra mitargim af eishesach shel habalama. Why? Umishkachas lo b'shisa achim, like we just did, 6 brothers. Ve'aliva the Reb Shimon, meaning he says no. We'll say our Mishnah is going like Reb Shimon, and here the simanach on the top of Yud is don't be confused. It just
And therefore, Zulun could have married Rachel.
Zvulun can be with Rachel.
No one argues. No one argues
in
about
that case. Now says the Gemara.
Rebbe holds like he holds.
It doesn't hold to this.
Correct.
The Mishnah.
Correct.
It's not that he doesn't hold to the Mishnah later on.
He doesn't.
It's just he doesn't say that our Mishnah must include that Mishnah.
No copacetic, right?
Exactly. So says the Gemara. One sec. Rav Safra says this case works in Rav Shimon and not Chachamim. No big deal. And he says, how does it work? This first line of the Gemara is just a little cryptic. It says, "B'simanech." How are you to remember how to set it up? Mace, meaning first make sure that Reuven dies. Then make sure that, in our cases, Yisachar is born, Nolad. Then make sure that Yehuda is Miyabim, Rachel, Miyabim. Then make sure the next thing happens is Shimon dies, Mace. And the next thing happens is Nolad. That would be Zvulun being born. And the last thing that's happening is Levi. So what happens now? Let's work it out. That was the order. If I would write it down, these 6 years, just that order. We don't even have to read that so much. So what's the question of the Gemara? According to what Rav Safra just said, our Mishnah is only according to who?
Shimon.
Rav Shimon.
Right.
Again, assuming you take the statement of Rav and Rav Chia, that Chavav and our Mishnah go together. Answers the Gemara, Ela Rebbe, honey, klali, Leslie. That's the answer.
What does that say? What does that mean?
Rebbe doesn't hold to that.
Right.
Meaning,
That, right.
we assume that Rebbe would agree to the statement of Rav and Rav Chia. Why? Rav and Rav Chia are Talmidim of Rebbe. We assume that if they're saying it, must be Rebbe held it. The answer to the Gemara is Rebbe doesn't hold it. Now, the Gemara is going to continue in tomorrow's daf and say, wait, you tell me he doesn't hold it. The Gemara is going to continue in this. We are sort of in the middle, but this is the stopping point for Amud Beis.
Go ahead.
So some people say this is the hardest daf in Shas. I do not understand why this is the hardest daf. This is an easy daf. It's math. You just got to follow. It's got to follow.
What doesn't he agree on?
What doesn't who?
What does Rebbe not agree on?
Rav and Reb Chia say
Pretty straightforward.
that our Mishnah's 15 ladies can fit every single one of them into the Mishnah later on Daf Chavav.
We didn't break our head over that.
Yeah, and no, we didn't go through all 15.
Yeah.
It's not even. It's really just reading a very long Rashi and working it out. Our Mishnah says 15 ladies who are Ereva, Pater Saras. That's our Mishnah. Says Rav and Reb Chia, the list of our Mishnah, that list is true. Those Erevas are all going to fit in the Mishnah Daf Chavav. And that statement, we're assuming Rebbe agrees. We wouldn't list anyone in our Mishnah who can't also fit into Chavav without any machlokas.
And the Chavav says, we're one brother, the other brother, the other brother.
Yeah. meaning that Yisachar could be with Leah and Zvulun could be with
Why would
Rachel.
Ruchia say that? I mean, why would he?
But
want
Ruchia
to-
is a Talmud of Rebbe.
Why would he want to combine both his names?
That's a good question. That's a cryptic statement in general.
What you said, what you said.
Why is
what-
Ruchia mentioning this? Like, really, to say that later's Mishnah and this Mishnah, what's the connection really? I mean,
Who cares?
that's a really
Anything
difficult.
in general, like how do you connect
Like
the
why?
two random?
Okay,
Mishnahs?
let's say it's true. Let's say it's not true. It doesn't change the truth of this Mishnah. It doesn't change the truth of that
Well,
Mishnah.
you wanted to do that.
I think he was just trying to express the cases. That's not clear.
But Rebbe would say we're not going to line them up together. What forced the Rebbe to say